So I met Dan a bunch of years ago, and I've been helping him deal with a complicated limb trauma situation. And I think Dan brings up a lot of interesting points in some of the decision making and the relationships that I have with my patients. Dan had a very, very terrible injury of his knee. He's also a professional musician, and being able to sit was really, really important to him. He had a very serious problem with extensor mechanism insufficiency after his knee replacement. You know, Dan was not doing well. His quality of life was low. He had a lot of instability of his knee. His gait was terrible. He had a flexion contracture of his knee combined with extensor mechanism insufficiency that had failed previous treatment. And you know, he had a crouched gait. He was exhausted all of the time. And knee arthrodesis or knee fusion wasn't an option. And he asked me and said, well, why can't we just do a scheduled amputation and an osseointegration? And I had gotten to the point where I said, you know what, we can, and I think, and I would predict that that will improve your quality of life a lot. So it's a bit of a bold move. It was a bold move, but I had Dan's trust, and we talked it out. It wasn't a quick decision. And I said, listen, I am willing, and I think it's going to be a great journey that we do this together. So sometimes, you know, you take a journey with your patient. Well, really all the time we do. We take a journey with our patient. But here, you know, doing something that's not sort of run-of-the-mill, so to speak, is what we did for Dan. So we scheduled the amputation, we did the osseointegration and limb replacement, and you know, now almost a year and a half later, I think the results speak for themselves. It has been transformative for Dan. His mobility, his quality of life, his sense of happiness and satisfaction with life has skyrocketed. And I feel really good that I've been able to do that for Dan. So Dan, it's been a year and 4 months following the osseointegration surgery. It was a bold move on our part, you know, to make that decision. And so I want to get a little perspective from you now, you know, having gone through it and the recovery. How do you feel? How are things now compared to before the surgery?
Things are great. I am doing great. It's opened up a whole new world of mobility. My walking is better. I used to bike. I can even bike easier. I can stand in one place easier. I had, you know, in addition to some pain, I had such inflexible leg and lack of extension that it was always bent, and I was lurching a lot, and I had back issues.
Do you feel more confident when you're up walking?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah. Before the surgery, you had a flexion contracture of the knee, you had chronic insufficiency of your extensor mechanism, and so you had that feeling of instability and made you prone to falling, and which kind of was part of this whole deterioration process that led us to do this.
Yes.
Today's x-rays look amazing. This is your hip joint, that's your femur, and as you know, there's not much of the femur left, right? There's not much of the femur left, but this is the implant in the femur, and it has grown in beautifully. So the bone has grown in really, really well into the implant. The implant is this white, right? That's the white. It's made out of titanium. It's got porous coating, and the bone has grown into it, and it is really, really stable. This is the side view, and it really, really looks fantastic. This is glued in with your own biological glue. And I saw you walking. You're walking beautifully. I mean, I love the way you're walking with so much more confidence and everything like that. So that's been great. Here's another really cool x-ray that we got, which really illustrates this is a true x-ray that helps you understand that you're a bit of a cyborg now, right? You're a bit of a cyborg, but you can see this is your pelvis, these are your hips, and you have very little femur left. But the osseointegration implant connects directly. So you have a direct bony connection now to the prosthetic. And that provides a tremendous amount of stability and support. The traditional way a prosthetic is attached or supported is with a socket, but a socket would be very, very difficult to really stabilize and for you to feel control with a short residual femur like this. So the osseointegration limb replacement, which is a direct bone anchored prosthetic, has been really fantastic for you, and I think this shows it really nicely. We got this picture to show that your leg lengths are equal, your pelvis is nice and level. It looks awesome. If we go back in time a little bit to kind of where you were right before we did this, right? So if you remember, we had this hinge knee replacement because you had a lot of trauma to your knee beforehand, a lot of instability. You had problems with bone healing. You had problems with the screws coming out, and you had problems with deformity in that bone. But the main thing was that the extensor mechanism, was not sufficient, and it had already been repaired more than once, and so you weren't going to get any extra stability out of that. And so we made that decision to do the amputation, the scheduled amputation, and to do it with an osseointegration limb replacement. And in retrospect, when I see you functioning at such a high level right now, I'm really thrilled. So, we decided all of this bone was not healthy bone. This was all non-union bone. And so we decided to make the cut proximal to that. And so if you look at that picture and then you switch to this picture, you can see that allowed us to really get into healthy bone, which is really what's necessary for the long-term success of the osseointegration implant. So I'm loving that. So I want to just take a look at your leg, make sure everything's looking good. Here, move your leg up. So that's your hip motion. Got good hip motion, and down. Bring your leg out this way, and bring your leg in this way. So I want you to push up against me as hard as you can.
Yeah.
See, you have great strength of your hip, and push out against me this way, and great strength in your hip. So what the osseointegration is doing for you is it's taking all of that hip strength and really making 100% use out of it, because now you've got this bone anchored implant in place. You see it on the x-ray, but this is what an actual implant looks like, right? So here you can see that's the implant in the bone.
Yep.
Right? And so there are a couple of different parts to it. The implant is in the bone. It's sticking out like that, kind of like what yours is doing right there. This is the end of the implant, as you know. And then this part that sticks out through the aperture is called the abutment. And this is what the prosthetic actually attaches to. This is the dual cone.
Yes.
This is what's called a taper base, and this is called a bushing. So this is we call that the abutment. And that's the part that's sticking out. And then this is what is actually on your prosthetic leg. Your leg is attached to that. And that's the connector device. And then that just pops right in, right? Boom, just like that.
Yep.
And then it's tightened with the bolt. So what you're looking at here, so this part here is exactly
the rod.
Is exactly this part here.
Right.
Right? And so this piece,
the abutment.
This is the end of the implant, is right there. And then you've got a couple of different parts that make up the abutment, the dual cone and the taper and the bushing, right? And these things will have to be changed every couple of years. And I know you just recently had an experience where the bushing had to be changed, but that's a relatively easy fix. And just an interesting thing about the bushing actually is designed to have a breakaway mechanism.
Yes.
So that if you had a fall or something that was overly stressed, this piece would actually break, almost like a ski binding, to protect the rest of the more important stuff, which is the implant and the bone, etc. But you feel that in your bone, right?
Yes.
And this is anchored.
Indeed,
into the bone. So this looks amazing.
Yes.
How long does it take you to, put on your leg, take off your leg?
It takes about 5 seconds.
Wow.
I mean, I roll up my leg pants. I turn the screw. Yeah, it's super quick.
That's great.
On and off. Yeah, very, very, very quick.
Sockets, as you know, are a whole process, and then you just don't get the stability and connection that
Not
you
to
are
mention the
getting.
irritation and the rubbing and the, no, it sounds like it's a no-brainer.
Tell me, what's it like taking care of the aperture? How
Easy.
What's your routine?
HIPAA cleanse. Just a little HIPAA cleanse, cleaning it around the end.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Great. Yeah, I mean, you've had a really good experience with the aperture, and we really have not had.
Yeah, I don't
not
take
had
any pain medicine at all for phantom pain or anything anymore. I haven't in a long time.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dan, great seeing you. I'm so glad that you came in today. You're doing great, and we'll meet back in about a year. Okay?
That sounds great, and I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been life-changing. The care that you've given me has really made my life great, and everything has been so wonderful.
It's my pleasure.
Because of it.
I'm so glad that you've done well and that you're doing
Thank
well.
you.
And I'm going to continue to watch you on this mobility journey. All right? Take it easy,
Thank you
buddy.
so much.
All right. See you soon.
Okay.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.